the previous video, we looked at making formula links between worksheets. 3D referencing is effectively an extension of doing formula links across multiple worksheets. But what is the third dimension? It all sounds a little bit complex, a little bit fancy, a little bit sci-fi. How do we get third dimensions if we just have an Excel worksheet? Well, your first dimension is the x-axis, or anything that is found in the Excel sheet from left to right. The second axis will be the y-axis, anything from top to bottom. And the third axis in this case is the sheet. So in my sheet 1 I have a cell A1, dimension 1, dimension 2, but this position is also found in multiple worksheets. All the different worksheets will have that same reference again and again. So I can get Excel to look at the different occurrences of the same cell reference in different sheets. Slightly complicated stuff, but let's have a look at an actual application. Let's say I have my sales broken down month by month. I have my July sales, August sales, September sales, but all on different sheets. And that is just the way it has come out of the database that I was using, or for whatever other reason. But what I want to do is accumulate the totals for all of the sales in all of those different months. One approach to doing that would be to add a sum total to this sheet, add a sum total to the next sheet, and etc., adding sum totals on every page, and then perhaps grabbing a calculator or making some network of linked cells in order to get all of that information onto one summary sheet and then do a summary of the summaries. But using 3D referencing, we can make a slightly more abbreviated version of this process. So let's say first of all I'm interested in total units sold. So that is going to be, looking at any given example, I want to know the total of column F, and I want to know the total of column F for every month. Let's just check that column F does in fact contain units on every page. Okay, good. So let's start our formula and see if we can make this 3D referencing work. Start my formula with the equals to tell Excel we're calculating a formula, and then I'm going to start with a sum function. So instead of going directly to the sheet that I'm interested in and clicking on its cells, I'm going to need to select multiple sheet tabs at the same time. To do that, I'll select one sheet tab, hold down the Shift key, and start selecting other sheet tabs. In fact, because I'm holding the Shift key, I can just start from one end and move to the other and select all the sheets in between. Well, notice our formula now says something a little bit different. Instead of just having one sheet name, it is telling me that it's working on the range of sheets between July 10 and November 10. Now I need to give it the cell information. I've given it the sheet dimension. I now need to give it actual cell dimensions. So with those sheets selected, I'm now going to click on to column F in order to be able to sum the units. So I now have from sheet July 10 to November 10 all of column F. I can now close my formula and see the result. Because I'm using an Excel table, Excel has automatically filled down that formula value. I don't want it to do that, so I'm going to tell it to stop automatically creating calculated columns. That's the simple value that I want, is just the top one. The sum of all the column Fs, or, in other words, the sum of all the units. So, at this point, it would probably be quite difficult to verify that my sum has actually worked across all of those sheets, except I've kept my one master sheet separate, so we can verify these calculations. Here I have my total units sold, which has combined all of the information on all of the sheets for all of the months, so then I can in effect verify that we do have 2,332 units sold. Excellent. Let's quickly run through and make sure we can do the same with our other calculations. We start with the equal sign, start with my function. We're now going to sum all of the sales across the different months. So I'm going to click onto my sheet, hold down the Shift key, select the final sheet, make sure that I now have selected all of the months between July and November 10. I'm then going to select column G, the total sales, and I can now close my formula. Let's do a quick check. In effect, we have 10,542, 10,542. I can also use some of those common functions that we looked at the previous video, such as average or minimum, with the same 3D referencing. I type my equals to start the formula, type average, get about halfway through and use tab to auto-complete. I then select on the sheet I want to start with, July 10, hold down the Shift key, select the final sheet, and then find the column I'm interested in, average of unit cost. Select column E and close my brackets. We have an average unit cost of $25.31. Fantastic. Finally, I want a count of my total number of transactions, so let's try that. Equals count, open my bracket, first sheet, hold Shift, final sheet, and I can count any of the numeric columns. Close brackets, and sure we have total number of transactions 38, matching my total number of transactions. So that is an overview of 3D referencing. 3D referencing is more or less limited to this specific example. We have recurring data on a number of different sheet tabs, and we know that the data will always be in the exact same format. If the output of this table was slightly different, and I started moving unit costs to column I and total sales to a different column, the use of 3D referencing would give me some pretty serious errors that I might not necessarily notice straight away. So if you are using 3D referencing, it is a very powerful tool, but just make sure that your column references are always in the same shape.